Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on From the South. We will begin once again in New York, where once again the United Nations General Assembly has voted to condemn the U.S. blockade on Cuba. Now, despite hopes that this would be the year and that this year would be different after the renewal of the relationships between the two countries, the U.S. vote remained the same. Against 191 countries voted for the resolution and in favor of Cuba. Now, only two countries, the U.S. and Israel, voted against. This year, no countries abstained. For the latest now, we turn to our correspondent, Jorge Gestoso in New York.
Here at the United Nations for the 24th year in a row, the United States voted against the resolution with the need to put an end to the embargo of Cuba for the United States. In reality, what we have heard as the position of the U.S. just justifying the vote was the Congress talking in the name of the United States and not necessarily the President Obama, who is really walking a fine line. By one side, he is reestablishing diplomatic relations with Cuba. By the other side, he's not really pushing the envelope. They were walking the extra mile to reestablish the relations, but also to normalize the relation, lifting the embargo against Cuba. Therefore, what we can read is that the Congress, the conservative forces within the Congress, are the ones who are really ruling the policy of the United States against Cuba. Most definitely, it is Congress what legally is the only one that can really lift that embargo. But in that sense, President Obama didn't want to declare an open war against the Congress with two resolutions, or abstaining or voting in favor. So mostly no surprises, and only two countries in the world, Israel and the United States, 191 countries in favor of ending that embargo, only the United States and Israel against. So no news at the United Nations today.
Cuban leaders say that the blockade has had a severe impact on the island's healthcare system. The restrictions often even prevent chemotherapy from being purchased directly, so it has to be brought through third-party countries, increasing the prices and delaying treatment reaching the hospitals. Now, about 300 children are treated each year at 6 cancer facilities around Cuba. Official figures show survival rates could be almost 70% with the needed drug, but they are 20% without it.
For us, it's essential, for her and for other patients with similar histology, to use a drug that increases the survival rate for these patients, as is in the case of temozolomide.
Elsewhere around Latin America, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos has blamed the National Liberation Army after an attack on an election convoy killed 12 people. 6 people still remain missing. Now, the military convoy was transporting ballots and electoral officials in the area of Boyacá. They were attacked with explosives and shots in a mountainous region belonging to the Uwa indigenous group. President Juan Manuel Santos has ordered the military to intensify efforts against the ELN rebel group, which has also been engaged in peace talks with the government and made repeated calls for peace.
This shows that the ELN has not understood that this is a time for peace and not war. If the ELN think that these acts will win them political space or strengthen them in an eventual negotiation, they are completely wrong. I've ordered the defense minister and the armed forces to double their efforts, intensify their military acts against this organization.
Now, despite the attack in Boyacá, in general, Sunday's elections in Colombia were marked by a significant reduction in violence in contrast with previous elections.
Colombians went to the polls Sunday amidst an unprecedented lack of violence. However, the reports on corruption and attempts of fraud seem to be equally unprecedented.
As the armed expression of the conflict decreases, Other expressions become visible, basically those that have to do with electoral fraud, corruption, vote buying, and the direct participation of the mafia in the elections.
For the Electoral Observation Mission, the fact that candidates under criminal investigation or facing jail time were elected showed that the main threat to the electoral process is not the armed conflict, but rather corruption.
Here we are talking about an imbalance between the campaigns that go into elections with honesty and complying with the rules, and those campaigns that simply bring into the competition lots of money, meaning they're not getting really elected, but rather buying the public office.
While candidates of the traditional or ruling coalition parties won an important majority of governments and mayors' offices, some leaders denounced the disadvantages that alternative movements and parties face during the lead-up.
Those who have the dirty money from corruption and narco-trafficking are in reality the ones taking over a big portion of the national territory.
Regarding the crucial role that those who got elected will have in the implementation of the peace agreements, the main opposition force to the peace process, former President Uribe's party, suffered significant defeats, while the outcome appeared favorable to President Santos.
The national coalition that supports the current government came out straightened, and that might very well give the president enough political maneuvering room to successfully accomplish the peace agreements.
Now, the second most important post, the mayor of Bogota, was lost by the leftist Democratic poll after 12 years, as the right-wing Enrique Peñalosa took it out. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogota.
Haitians also went to the polls on Sunday. Elections observers there say the elections were generally peaceful, in which the voters had to choose from a slate of 54 candidates for the individual to succeed President Michel Martelly. Our correspondent in the Caribbean now, Allison Kentish, reports on reactions around the region following what is a historic vote.
The results of the Haitian election are not expected until November, but the eyes of many in the Caribbean are looking to the future, hoping for a turn in fortunes for the beleaguered country. Over 5 years after a devastating earthquake, Haiti continues to face serious challenges. One of the key issues hampering recovery efforts remains the no receipt of funds which were pledged to the country by the international community in the aftermath of the quake. Some French Creole-speaking Caribbean islands like Dominica have a large Haitian population. Residents of St. Lucia say they are hoping for a fully functional government for their brothers and sisters in Haiti.
Want positive government in any country, okay? To my mind. And once it follows a democratic and fair process, all should be well.
Other nationals believe it is time for an end to the political and economic turmoil that have gripped Haiti. They say while there have been a few successes, Haiti needs a functional government and less interference from international governments.
The Caribbean governments must play a role, a vital role in Haiti. Haiti is a part of the Caribbean, but America all intervene. The Caribbean government should intervene more, and the CARICOM should play a greater role in Haiti.
Haiti is a member of the 15-country Caribbean Community CARICOM bloc. A CARICOM observer mission is currently in the country, having supervised the elections. The second round of the legislative elections will be a runoff for seats in the lower house and the Senate in Haiti's 119 constituencies. The first round on August 9th saw some 2,000 candidates from over 100 political parties vying for those seats. Alison Kentish, Telesur, St. Lucia.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro signed a document agreeing to respect the results of the December 6th legislative election. Now, he guaranteed that no matter who wins, the will of the people, will be defended. He also regretted the opposition's refusal to sign the pledge and warned that they are planning post-election violence. The aim of the document is to reaffirm the National Electoral Council's authority as an electoral arbiter. The president announced an anti-coup plan would be implemented immediately after the elections.
I came to sign for millions of men and women of our country who want peace. We respect the electoral referee. We know the tremendous advances that have allowed our electoral system to shield the popular will.
The Venezuelan government has extended the state of emergency 60 more days at its border with Colombia. Now, President Maduro issued the first state of emergency in late August. It comes as an attempt to deter the smuggling of food and fuel and stop the spillover of paramilitary activity from Colombia. The leadership of the Honduras resistance movement and the political opposition traveled to the Aguan Valley to bury lawmaker Wilfredo Paz, who died last Saturday of natural causes. Gerardo Torres now reports on his death and those who gathered for final goodbye.
The sudden death of Congressman Wilfredo Paz means an important loss for the leadership of the Libre Party and the Resistance Front, especially in the region of the Aguan Valley, where he was an outstanding defender of human rights of campesino groups that are in the struggle for the land against powerful landowners that have the support of the military and the government. Paz was the founder of the International Human Rights Observatory and a national leader of the teacher movement.
Here in the Aguan, Will fought with all sectors, and we are talking campesinos, teachers, working women, community organizations of different kinds. Will was there in that struggle permanently. This region of the Aguan has many conflicts, where powerful landowners have tried to take all the land without any action made by any government. Will is the spokesperson of the agrarian platform in this region.
Wilfredo Paz was the sub-coordinator of the parliament group of the Libre Party. He will mean an important loss in both the political and social side of Honduran leftist movement.
Without any doubt, the ABM Valley had in Wilfredo Paz an important reference, a man of principles, a fighter for the social cause that supported the campesinos that demand the agrarian reform, a belligerent man, incorruptible, with a clear idea on what we had to do in the National Congress and what to do in the country. We lose an important compañero. For me, it's a great challenge. I assume it, and I will try to face the expectations that the people had with Will and to continue with this work.
Wilfredo Paz was one of the founders of the resistance in the Aguan Valley of Honduras. He died at the age of 55 years. He will be remembered as one of Honduras' most remarkable social and political leaders. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
The British Prime Minister's tax cut proposals have been put on hold for now. We'll tell you why when we come back after the break.
Telesur Reports, The Real USA, the stories behind the tweets, Ataman, Lives, Know Your Body, Open Files, exposing the conflicts that affect our people, compelling personal stories, and the most controversial events. See it all on telesurtv.net in English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.
Day by day, they're in the street with one mission: change the world through their actions. This is a different type of program, a conversation. The perspective you won't find in traditional media can be found on the Lore Flag. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.
We need to understand the world we live in. We require news with critical points of view, thorough analysis, and social commitment. This information is vital to think, to understand, and to change. The world demands a new perspective. telesurtv.net/English. Wherever the news, you'll be there.
Authorities have stepped up their rescue efforts to help those affected by the 7.5 magnitude earthquake in Asia. Now, more than 360 people have died following that quake, most of them in Pakistan. Reports say that some 2,000 more have been injured. Rescue teams have been sent to remote mountainous areas where the impact of the quake is still unclear. Now, in Pakistan, troops were mobilized and the Air Force is also supporting the efforts. All military hospitals were put on high alert as well. While in Afghanistan, the presidential palace tweeted that the death toll had risen to 115 and some 538 people were injured. Over 7,000 homes have been destroyed or damaged. United States Secretary of State John Kerry will assemble roughly a dozen Arab and European countries later this week to discuss ending the civil war in Syria and the future of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Now, according to State Department spokesman John Kirby, who spoke to reporters on Monday, Kerry believes the momentum is moving in the right direction following Russia's military intervention in Syria. Therefore, Kerry feels it is important to continue to meet with partners on the matter. The upcoming meeting will build on talks Kerry held in Austria last week with Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. The talks will be held in Vienna on Friday.